New off-the-wall claims for Biden. With Howard Stern, we've got it. Biden claiming women sent him salacious pictures when he was a senator, to claiming he saved half a dozen people as a lifeguard, plus another whopper of a falsehood. We're going to get into it. But first, let's get right now with Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal editorial board, terrific writer and author. Kimberly, it's so good to see you again. So everyone is talking about your column explaining why all of these cases against former President Trump are wrong, that they're Democrat election interference. Can you explain that to us?
Well, sure. And hi, Liz. It's great to be here. This particular column was talking about the Alvin Bragg case that we have going on right now in Manhattan, in which we now have the Manhattan prosecutor claiming that Donald Trump somehow, by not revealing to the nation via campaign finance rules this hush money payment that was sent to an adult film actress, that somehow he engaged in election fraud or election interference. And we can go through why that's absolutely absurd. But I think the point here is that all this does is underline how crazy most of these cases have been. We also saw the one at the Supreme Court this week, where the court was very skeptical about the ability of Jack Smith to bring some of these charges that he has against Donald Trump. They've been stretched to such a limit that, of course, the question is lawfare, and whether or not the people who really are interfering in the election are those that are bringing these suits for the sole purpose of tearing down their primary opponent in a campaign, potentially even jailing him prior to the election so that they can keep power.
So these court cases against Trump, they're an all-out legal assault connected to the Biden White House to stop Biden's political rival, Trump. Just use the courts to knock out and gag your opponent. You know, that's not America.
Well, it's just a real problem. I mean, we're used to hearing other countries do things like this. And the fact that we have so many in the press corps right now that are rah-rahing this situation, because there's a real short-term thinking going on here, too. And that was one of the things that was so important that the Supreme Court talked about this week. The person arguing on behalf of Jack Smith wanted to talk about the Donald Trump specifics of this case and suggested he was this one-time figure, we'll never deal with this again. And, of course, what the court wanted to talk about was that if we are now breaking these kinds of standards and norms, and you have special prosecutors who feel that they can indeed indict a former president over somewhat stretched charges, what's to stop anyone from continuing that pattern in the future, and every future president facing the prospect of this? I think that's a really important thing that a lot in the press and a lot of those people that are cheering on these lawsuits are forgetting about what we could potentially be doing to the country here.
Yeah, so, you know, they wanted to impeach Trump even before he sat down in the Oval Office. They moved on impeachment charges within 6 months. People rioted the day it was inaugurated. They leaked his tax returns, tried to knock him off of multiple state ballots. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, you know, basically stonewalled and blocked any attempt by Trump to really truly reform what America needed at the time. You know, when you look at D.A. Bragg's case, Kimberly, it's being called seriously weak. No one can figure out what exactly the federal felony here it is. It's built on a state books and records misdemeanor claim and a state conspiracy claim against Trump that only affects state races, not federal elections. And by the way, Kimberly, how is it a conspiracy if it is the National Enquirer's business model, as David Pecker testified, to suppress damaging stories for other individuals in the public eye, like Rahm Emanuel and Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a really interesting part of that case this week, which is that I think prosecutors will be sorry they decided to go down this road of questioning, because catch and kill is not illegal, taking stories and then not publishing them. We also have what's called a press exemption in this country. A lot of newspapers very openly endorse candidates, throw their sports behind them, and sometimes they don't as openly do it, but they're doing it nonetheless. The arguments that have been put out there this week is that what's essentially come out is that this happens all the time with the National Enquirer and celebrities. And remember, this is important, because if Donald Trump was asking the National Enquirer, that's even assuming he was, but if the goal of this was not, in fact, had anything to do with his campaign, but simply because he wanted to protect his celebrity reputation, because he didn't want his family to know anything about this, then that really blows a hole in Alvin Bragg's argument that somehow these payments were made solely for the purpose of helping his campaign and therefore somehow helping him engage with an election fraud.
You know, that's reasonable doubt. If one juror agrees with what you just said, then the case, you know, goes toward Trump wins and Alvin Bragg, you know, loses. And the thing is, there's a lot of talk about how, you know, Special Counsel Jack Smith's team has been meeting with Biden White House insiders. Certainly Fani Willis's team, Nathan Wade, in the Georgia 2020 case, met with Biden White House. So it's what Biden has been doing, given that he's been in D.C. since 1974, never worked in the private sector. He knows how to pull the levers of power in D.C. to keep him in power. But what's really interesting, final word, Kimberly, you would think this case would hurt Trump, the Bragg case would hurt Trump with even New York voters, but Siena College poll, Trump is within 10 points of Joe Biden in the very blue New York State. He's at 37% to 47%. And look at this. Trump is beating Biden by 14 points with swing voters, with independent voters, 46% to 32% inside New York State. Final word, Kim Strassel.
Yeah, I think a couple of things are going on here. One, voters are very smart, and they're looking at this. They understand the lawfare aspect of it and the concerning issues about that. And I think the Democrats thought that they would keep all the attention on Trump and it would be negative headlines. In fact, I think what a lot of voters are asking is, why is nobody out there talking about the issues that matter to us, especially this White House? It's all Trump, 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 Trump. Isn't he so terrible? They want to hear about inflation. They want to hear about national security. They want to hear about how their gas prices are going to go down. This White House doesn't have an answer for that. And in that regard, the fact that they're keeping Donald Trump in the news and in a way that is unflattering to those on their side because of this question of unfair justice, I don't think it's necessarily doing them any benefit.
That was a terrific interview. So smart. Really interesting. Kim Strassel, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you. Continue to read Kimberly Strassel. Terrific writer. Really insightful.
Скользя между тенями. Здесь каждый день это битва за место под солнцем, за славу, за благо. Но я не боюсь, я готов сражаться, ведь я знаю, что моя жизнь это не игра. Мой город, он такой разный, красивый, грязный, опасный, но я